Hello everyone. In this lesson, we are going to study Chapter 3, Philosophy. First of all, what is philosophy? Philosophy original in ancient Greek. The original meaning of philosophy was the love of wisdom. What we are going to learn today is Chinese philosophy. It is the contemporary understanding of ancient Chinese wisdom. The emphasis is on Confucianism and Taoism. When you look around your textbook, there are 3 points. First of all, philosophy is the most basic and stable thing in a nation's spiritual culture. Second, philosophy is a complete system of thought, a way of thinking, and a way of life. Third, Confucianism and Taoism are the main and most practical thoughts guiding Chinese life. This definition of philosophy is more broader than the narrow way. In the narrow way of definition about philosophy, it is a theoretical method. But when we talking about Chinese philosophy, there are more concentrated on aesthetics and value. Because of the limit of class hours, we probably won't be able to finish the materials all. In general, we are focused on the first section, focused on understanding Confucius and Mencius. We will also read passages from the Analects of Confucius. For the rest, you need to learn by yourself from the textbook. Now, we are beginning to study the section 1. Representative figures of Confucius. First of all, we are talking about Confucius, about his life, his works, and Confucianism in the history. Confucianism is the most important element in Chinese traditional philosophy. Before Confucius, the scholars alike regarded it as a trade for rites and ceremonies, which was used as a means of livelihood. It was Confucius who transformed Confucianism into a political ideology, a philosophical thought, and an attitude for life. Confucius is the founder and most important thinker of Confucianism, and has been regarded as a sage by the Chinese people since ancient times. Confucius was born in the federal state Lu, now in Shandong province of China. His ancestors were descended from a branch of the ruling house of Song, who belonged to the royal family of the Shang dynasty, otherwise called the Yin dynasty. His great-grandfather, one of the great nobles of the Song state, immigrated to the state Lu in withdrawing from a certain civil tumult. His father, Su Nianghe, served as a high official in an administrative district of the state Lu, being also a knight renowned for his great physical strength. His mother, named Zhen Zai, was of the Yan family, also of aristocratic origin. She was married to Su Nianghe in his later years. 5 years later, Confucius was born, and 3 years thereafter her husband died. Thus Confucius was seen offered when he was only 3 years old, and his mother died when he was 24. According to our calendar, Confucius was born on the 28th of September in the year 551 BC, and this date is not fixed as a festival for teachers in China. Since the 3rd century AD, scholars have been encouraged in the exact calculation of historical dates of the period. And now, in terms of our modern calendar, this seems to be the final correct one. He lived up to 479 BC, aged 74. It may be noted in passing that the Romanization of the name Confucius is the usual current style. In Chinese, he is called Kong Fuzi, or else Kongzi. Kong is his family name and plays first, and Fuzi simply means master. Zi is just a complimentary appellation for a man whom we would consider nowadays a respected and knowing person. Such examples are Laozi, Zhuangzi, Mozi, etc. His monosyllabic name is Qiu, means hillock or mountains. His two-word name is Zhongli. Before his birth, his mother prayed for a son on the hill Li, and when the son was born, the name given was Qiu in memory of the hill, and Zhong indicates merely the second one, while the name of the hill Li was also retained. Yet so great was the respect of later ages towards this sage that these normal appellations were nearly tumbled, and in meeting his name, the word Qiu in the text, it was read as Mo, different from its original pronunciation, meaning something like so and so. Thus far it is quite uninteresting, because we say Confucius was born just as an ordinary man. There was no annunciation before his birth, nor did there appear any brilliant star in the sky when the child was born. Nor was there any special sign or mark on the body of the child after being born, such as the 32 auspicious signs of Gautama Buddha. It is not that such legals never exist in China. Some such stories actually exist before and during his time, as a certain girl was born with certain words in her hand, and on another occasion, a boy who afterwards became a famous man. But they were mostly attached to the birth of certain heroes of later ages, and connected with a dream or a spatial vision of the mother just before pregnancy or when the child was born. And generally, these heroes were less great characters. There was only one record about the physiognomy of Confucius, which was most probably a fact, that the crown of his head was somehow hollow in the middle and rising up round. Thus he had a particular shape skull. But that could scarcely be taken as the stamp of an avatarhood, or as an auspicious sign of the body. Confucius was married at the age of 19 to a girl of the Song family with the surname Qi Guan, and in the next year a son was born. It happened that on the occasion of his child's birth, the Duke of Lu presented a crab to Confucius, and so the son was named Li, or crab, and for a polite name, styled Bo Yu, or fish the eldest. It is remarkable that the genealogy of this Kong family remained in a lineage unbroken throughout the past 2,500 and more years. And now the descendants in the 77th generation are living, and one of them is a famous professor in China. Yan's family preserved the same tradition. Such examples of authentic historicity in recording the hereditary lineage can scarcely be found anywhere in the world today. It is a fact well established that Confucius began his career as a teacher at the age of about 23 and had henceforward to the end of his life always a group of disciples following him. The number amounted to 3,000, among whom 72 or 77 were the most eminent. Confucius himself said, "In teaching, there should be no distinction of classes." Further, from the man bringing his bundle of dried melt for my teaching upwards, I have never refused instruction to anyone. It was most likely that only during his years served in the ministries of the state that he attracted fewer disciplines to himself, but even then this fact is doubtful. That the knowledge could be imparted without social distinction is a thing unique and remarkable, different entirely from the practice of ancient Brahmins, whose spiritual knowing was confined to the twice born. No wonder people nowadays prized him for his democracy spirit as an educator. Okay. Next, let us to look around some chapters of the Analects of Confucius. Chapter 26 in Xianjing. Firstly, we can see the picture. The people with yellow clothes is Confucius, and the other four is his students. 子路、曾皙、冉有 and 公西华. 公西华 was the one in the right. These students were sitting by the master. He said to them, "Though I am a day or so older than you, do not think of that. From day to day you are saying, we are not knowing. If some road were to know you, what would you like to do?" His student Zilu hastily and lightly replied, "Suppose the case of a state of 10,000 chariots. Let it be straitened between other large states. Let it be suffering from invading armies, and to this let there be aiding of farming in corn and in all vegetables. If I were entrusted with the government of it, in 3 years' time, I would make the people to be bold and to recognize the rules of righteous conduct." The master smiled at him. Turning to Ran Yu, he said, "Qiu, what are your wishes?" Qiu replied, "Suppose a state of 60 or 70 li square, or one of 50 or 60, and let me have the government of it. In 3 years' time, I could make plenty to abound among the people. As to teaching them the principles of propriety and music, I must wait for the rise of a superior man to do that." "What are your wishes, Chi?" said the master next to Gong Xihua. Chi replied, "I do not say that my ability extends to these things, but I should wish to learn them. At the services of the ancestral temple, and at the audience of the princes with the sovereigns, I should like dressing in the dark square-made robe and the black line cap, to act as a small assistant." Last of all, the master asked Zhen Xi, "Dian, what are your wishes?" Dian, pausing as he was playing on his lute, while it was yet morning, laid the instrument aside and said, "My wishes are different from the cherished purpose of these 3 gentlemen," said the master. "What harm is there in that? Do you also, as well as they, speak out your wishes?" Dian then said, "In this, the last month of spring, with the dress of the season all complete, along with 5 or 6 young men who have assumed the cap, and 6 or 7 boys, I would wish in the enjoy the breeze among the rain altars and return home singing." The master held a sign and said, "I give my approval to Dian." This story is just talking about their wishes, but why Confucius give his approval to Zhen Xi is a question. We can check in the chapter 26 of Gong Ye Chang. In this chapter, the problem is talking about in another way. Yan Yuan and Ji Lu being by his side, the master said to them, "These two students is Confucius' good student. Come, let each of you tell his wishes," Zilu said. Zilu is volunteered. Zilu said, "I should like having chariots and horses and light fur clothes to share them with my friends, and though they should spoil them, I would not be displeased." Yan Yuan said, "I should like not to boast of my excellence, not to make a display of my meritorious deeds." Zilu then said, "I should like, sir, to hear your wishes." The master said, "There are, in regard to the aged, to give them rest; in regard to friends, to show them sincerity; in regard to the young, to treat them tenderly. So, in the life, to make everyone being well seated is the Confucianism's value." So let's read the other one. Chen Kang asked Bo Yu, saying, "Have you heard any lessons from your father different from what we have all heard?" We know Bo Yu is Confucius' son, and Chen Kang is a student or a government officials. Bo Yu replied, No, he was standing alone once when I passed below the hall with hasty steps, and said to me, 'Have you learned the oaths?' On my replies, 'Not yet,' he added, 'If you do not learn the oaths, you will not be fit to converse with.' I replied and studied the oaths. Another day, he was in the same way stand alone when I passed by below the hall with hasty steps, and said to me, 'Have you learned the rules of propriety?' On my replying, 'Not yet,' he added, 'If you do not learn the rules of propriety, your character cannot be established.' I then retired and learned the rule of propriety. I have heard only these two things from him." Chen Kang retired and quite delighted said, "I asked one thing, and I have got three things. I have heard about the oaths, I have heard about the rules of proprieties. I have also heard that the superior man maintains a distant reserve toward his son." Okay, we can look around what Confucius has doing about his work. In his later years, Confucius began to complete books. Such as the Book of Poetry, 诗, the Book of Document, 书, the Book of Music, 乐, the Book of Changes, 易, and the Spring and Autumn Annuals, 春秋. He has presented his standards of right and wrong, wisdom of life, and a political thought in these books. After he passed away, his discipline collected his words and compiled them into a book called 论语, the Analects of Confucius, just we read above. These books later become Confucian classics, which had a profound impact on Chinese people and Chinese society for thousands of years. We can say that the Confucian thought has been in the blood of the Chinese people and had become an inseparable part of the Chinese spirit.